One of the leading experts in ADHD is clinical psychologist Dr. David Nell. He created the brilliant acronym of HEDYDT. It stands for How Exactly Did You Do That? HEDYDT. In this episode, you will discover that through understanding and applying this acronym, you can slowly transform the ADHD brain and level up every brain, not just to the next level, but to the meta level of function. I'm Annie Agin, and I can't wait to share with you Dr. David Nell's incredible contribution to the world of understanding and harnessing the potential of neurodiverse brains. He is my hero and my mentor, and I recommend him to all my families. I tell them to read his every blog and his every publication because he truly is a sage when it comes to teaching about the brain and coaching it into wellness, stability, and strength. I aspire to do the same for you today, so I want you to download an incredible set, a PDF of 3 of the most impactful techniques that your teen can use on the daily. And these are techniques that are science based and they improve on almost all the essential executive functions in the brain, from organization, planning, prioritization, task initiation, focus, attention, goal driven perseverance, and self regulation. Okay, so I just listed 8 executive functions, and you might be wondering, well, just how many executive functions are there? You can condense or categorize them into as few as about 3 or 4, and you could enumerate them out to as many as about 20 or 30. What you need to know, though, is that the executive functions are soft skills, they're life skills, the brain skills housed in the front part of the brain that are rapidly developing throughout adolescence. And until now, parents, you have served as your child's surrogate prefrontal cortex. But now they are individuating by nature, and this is a very good thing. They are kicking you out of their brains, whether you like it or not. Sometimes it feels like they're also kicking you out of their lives. And that's okay too. It's totally normal behavior. And it's also very, very necessary. However, for your child to thrive in their newfound freedom and independence, they must learn these skills. And someone has to teach them these functions. Because one thing that I know after almost 20 years in schools and in education, they are not taught in school. So they're not going to get the direct instruction in these brain functions in their school day. So, of the many essential executive functions, there is no one that's more important than another. They're all really essential. But I have to be honest and tell you that there are a couple that always seem to kind of be highlighted as the most important in my own coaching. And the one that we're going to take a look at and focus on today is metacognition. Now, it sounds kind of esoteric, don't you think? Meta is cool, like the new Facebook. Maybe metaverse comes to mind, whatever that is. And cognition is obviously thinking. And so it's abstract. It's more abstract than the other executive functions. And teens and even parents sometimes have trouble wrapping their heads around it. Enter Dr. David Nell and his acronym that stands for How Exactly Did You Do That? I can't find a better practice than How Exactly Did You Do That to elevate the ADHD brain and to get all brains metacognating. Now, I know that's not a word, but it is now because I just made it up. Okay, so here's how I use How Exactly Did You Do That in my coaching and training. When meeting with a student, and they might say, guess what, Miss Annie, I didn't miss any assignments this week. I have nothing missing. Well, the first thing that we absolutely do is have a happy dance, and we have to celebrate that moment. It's a big accomplishment. And the very next thing I ask them is, okay, let's take a look back. Let's reflect. Let's break this down. How exactly did you do that? What did you do differently this time that helped you get everything turned in on time? Did you change something about your routine? Did you try something different? Is there something new that you're doing at night so that you check to make sure everything's turned in? And was there any sort of shift for you? So, parents, you can do this with your kiddos too. Pose these questions and give lots of think time because your teen might shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know. That's probably what they're going to say initially. It's very natural. But persist. I mean, not in a nagging way. First, this was something like, okay, that's cool. Something must have been different. I wonder what it was. What was that thing that you did to remind yourself to check to make sure your assignments were completed and turned in? Or how did you remember to double check the night before? It might take a while for your teen to figure out what shifted, what was different, but they are metacognating. And this is very, very hard for the ADHD brain, especially. And it takes quite a bit of cognitive effort as well. But stay with it. You're not exactly looking for an answer to that question, but you are training the teenager's brain to think about their thinking. They are metacognating, and it's such an important skill. So pose this question when things don't go so well as when the things go well. When there's a breakdown, I mean, not in the heat of the moment, obviously, when your kiddo is very sensitive, but when your child is receptive, go to the Dr. David Nowell acronym and ask, so how did that happen? How exactly did that happen? Let's take a look at this together. Let's look back and figure out the steps with your team, and the two of you will metacognate together until you have an aha moment. It's usually an aha moment when all of a sudden your kid's eyes bulge out of their face and they realize, oh, that was a moment I dropped the ball, or that's where I took the wrong turn. Oh yeah, I remember that's the day I forgot to check my calendar before leaving the house because I woke up late. Or that was the night that I was so tired after basketball practice that I didn't pack up my school things the night before. That's where things went wrong. This is metacognition. It's in action, and you can practice it every day in every way. Practice and practice and practice this with your kids. And parents, be sly about it. You can be creative about this. In all of my years of working with teenagers, I've found that honing this specific executive functioning skill, metacognition, it can really be sort of the linchpin that gets all of the other functions to get trucking, to kind of get clicking. How exactly did you do that? How exactly did I do that? How exactly did it go wrong? Dr. David Nell, he exercises this with awareness building, with impulse control, with self regulation. And those are all the areas where the brain is most challenged during adolescence. And he has even dressed up the acronym in such a playful way. He's given I think it's the Y and the E, two little dots over those two letters. They're umlauts, just to be playful. I don't know exactly why, but it's so random and creative, almost like it was born straight from a brilliant ADHD brain. But he loves the ADHD brain, and he coaches all ages. He knows how to cater to the neurodiverse brains to connect with it, and you can see that comes through in the way that he's created this acronym that is so very helpful, and it has a signature mark with those umlauts over the two letters. So play with this and enjoy it while you're taming and appreciating your child's brain. Have fun with integrating these exercises. Experiment at home. Experiment with your own life in your own head. Write out the acronym on post-its and place them all over the house. Don't forget the umlaut I's over the E and over the Y. And you're all going to be start asking. You're all going to start asking yourself, "Geez, how exactly did I do that?" I remembered to send all the birthday cards that I bought at the supermarket last weekend. Hey, yeah, hooray for me! How exactly did I do that? All right. So if you get this executive function trucking, I have a very strong suspicion that many of the other executive functions are going to level up too. So think about your thinking every moment, every day. Think about what others may be thinking in every situation. Encourage your child to do the same. Metacognate wherever you go. And don't forget to ask your teenager, especially when they do something good, hey, great effort there. Wowza. How exactly did you do that? I hope you feel like you can master metacognition after learning all about it in this podcast and then in this episode and in this YouTube video. The link below will help to bring along those other functions that we mentioned, like attention and focus and deep learning and not forgetting, working memory. And the link has some great tips, tricks, and techniques that I insist you have for free on me. Forge on, and remember, you have a beautiful brain with unparalleled neuroplasticity, and that means we can coach and train up your brain to do amazing things. A huge shout out and deep gratitude to you, David Nowell, for making this episode possible and for your unending coaching, empowering teachers and parents and students everywhere.